Hello and welcome. We are in conversation with Pramod Bhasin, Vice Chairman of GENPACT and a leading light of the Indian BPM industry. One of the challenges the industry has been facing is how it copes with talent and skill flow, particularly in these challenging times. And fixing that problem is not going to be simple, particularly at a time when things are slowing down, and I guess maybe the task becomes more difficult. So, Mr. Bhasin, tell us, we're facing an interesting situation. The world outside, the Western world, to which you supply goods and services or more services, is actually looking up.
Yes.
Right. In India, we are seeing a slowdown of sorts, which has, apart from the fact that it affects industry here, also has its other sort of downstream effects. Right, because maybe people are not finding the jobs they want, people are not finding, there are other social issues as well.
Absolutely.
How is this all adding up to what this industry needs, which is really raw material or good skilled labor?
You know, the problem of good skilled labor has been there for a long time, and it's not getting any better, not for global reasons, but for the fact that our education system is still in enormous disrepair and needs a lot of help. It's not getting that help right now, as far as I can tell. There's no noticeable difference on the ground. And therefore, I think industry has to do what I think we as GENPACT certainly did, which is invest heavily in training people. There is no question in my mind that unless we privatize this element of training and skill development, as well as companies take on that burden more and more, we actually can't meet the demands of the global world. Those demands are changing very fast.
Right.
Because, with the cloud, web, internet access, content, worldwide dissemination of information, the skills you need to serve those customers are changing extraordinarily fast. I don't think there's an education system in the world that is going to keep up with it. And I think industry more and more around the world, but much more so in India, will have to step up and spend more money in teaching people these new skills.
And at the same time, the industry, I was talking to one of your peers, was saying that it's really going up the value chain faster and faster. So you're actually seeing sales grow, but not at the same headcount growth that we've seen earlier.
Absolutely. And that's how it should have been. I think that's how it should have been. We certainly pride ourselves on the fact that I don't want to sound silly about this, but we said that 10 years ago, right? You have to move up the value chain. So we employ today 4,000 MBAs, 1,500 to 2,000 chartered accountants. When you focus in on these newer areas, analytics, big data, you need great skills, but it is also a great product and a service that you can deliver. And as the process of delivering services moves up the value chain and matures, customers will look to us for things which are well beyond transactional.
Right.
How do you improve my process end to end? How do you execute on business process reengineering? And a phrase I've started using a lot, which is, what do you do better than I can do myself? And I think we've got to remember that the days of labor arbitrage are over. So now we have to become experts. You're going to be an expert in banking or finance and accounting or analytics or big data or supply chain or in industry, banking or pharmaceutical or whatever it may be. And I think that's where our whole industry has to head to, which is building capabilities and expertise so that clients come to us. Silly example, you go to a courier service because they can deliver packages faster and better than you can. You go to a bank because they can deal with your money better than you can. You come to us because we can deal with finance and accounting better than you can.
Right.
And I think those days are here.
Right. So how are things looking today? We're in the middle of, tending towards the end of 2013. How have things been in the last 9 months since we met at the India Leadership Forum? And how is it going to be for the next few months till the end of the financial year?
I think things are looking pretty good. You're going to get a differentiation between the men and the women and the boys and the girls, because now true capability will come out and true organizational capabilities and strengths will come out. So you will see some of that differentiation which is happening. But generally the markets are not bad, pretty good. Overall industry is continuing to do quite well. There are going to be hurdles, non-tariff barriers. I worry about that a lot. As Europe is still not coming out, how much can you really do in the business process management industry in Europe And are they going to put visa restrictions and all kinds of other stuff which is happening in the US, which are both unfair and unnecessary, I think. But if you go up the value chain, customers very quickly forget and don't ask, where are you doing this work? How are you going to do it? Who's going to do it? What they want is an end product. And I think we're getting to a stage where customers will ask fewer questions about, the phrase made in China no longer startles anyone. One of these days, the phrase that service from India will no longer startle anyone because it's just the way the world business environment works. I think we'll get there. We're not there yet, but I don't think it's far away.
Right. So you're saying things are looking good. I mean, primarily because, let's say, companies have either new demands or the economies in the West are looking up. But just to come back to the point that I started with,
yes.
How does this kind of mesh with what's happening in India today? I mean,
yes.
Not enough jobs being created, the economy itself is in a slowdown.
Right.
Or does it not mesh at all?
I don't think it meshes, unfortunately. I don't know of a country which needs business process reengineering more than India does at the ground level. I mean, quite honestly. Yeah. We probably have one of the largest pools of people and talent to do that, but it's not being applied. So if you look around, I mean, our issues of growth are somewhat related to the economy and global economy and quantitative easing, etc. But they're more related to the fact that our ports don't get goods out fast enough, our roads are not being built at the pace we need. Energy is not being released the way it needs to. This also, by the way, in my view, of course it needs reforms. But more than anything else, it just needs execution on the ground. And that's something we have to learn how to do. I don't know if as Indians we really like doing that.
But that's an interesting point. So you're saying the biggest customer for your industry is actually right here in our backyard.
Should be right here.
But is actually maybe 6 to 10,000 miles away.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. If you think about the judicial system, so much wastage happens because the files are not there, the documentation is not available, notices haven't been served, the scheduling is wrong. This is very simple workflow stuff that has been solved 1,000 different ways in 1,000 different countries, right?
Have you done that kind of work, for instance, in GENPACT?
For other customers? Yeah. All the time.
Judicial?
No, we haven't done judicial, but we've done claims processing, we've done very heavy medical issues processing, we've managed customer complaints, we manage disputes, we manage lots of things.
So similar sensitivity.
Yes, and we can see where, there are lots of reasons why things are held up. I mean, for instance, court cases against citizens by the government. 50-60% of the clogging in courts is between government and citizens. If you go across income tax, there's going to be, 20 main reasons why things aren't happening. And if you can start solving for some, it can release an enormous amount of capacity. Similarly with the ports, put some measurements in which allow you to measure how fast you're releasing goods, why something is waiting so long. Projects, why aren't big projects getting executed on time? Where is the holdup? I know that we talk about cabinet committees at high level. That's not where the action is. The action is on the ground, Where is that goddamn file that needs to move from one desk to the other, and why hasn't it moved? This is what business process reengineering is about. And I think most of us are available pro bono.
So so things are looking good for the business process management industry.
Decent. I won't say they're looking great,
right,
because I think there's too much volatility. I think there's a lot of pressure around outsourcing in some parts of the world. But they're looking decent, given the environment. I think they're fair, they're reasonable, they're not bad.
Right. So which comes to the last point and last question as well. So which leaves sort of one part,
yes,
and is really the skills and the quality of the skills that you will need to fulfill the growth that you
yes,
want,
yeah,
and the desires of your clients, which
yes,
is really, as you said earlier, going up the value chain.
Yes.
So how does that stand today? In a very broad sense.
I think there's a huge dearth of talent, particularly in the higher value-added spaces. That's not unusual because typically in these spaces there's always going to be a dearth. I do think companies need to step up to that. And our higher levels of institutions must also step up to that. You know, if you go to China, I've just come back from China, if you look at the universities and you look at the curriculums and that they're developing, they are trying to find, they're very conscious of this, and they're introducing subjects and subject matter expertise, etc., to teach their students CC. We're not doing that here. The fact is we must do it because industry can't take on that full burden. But in the interim, I think industry has to step up. We all have to step up and learn how to train people in these skills because the world's moving too fast. Lastly, I'd say one thing. We desperately need better broadband. When I go overseas, I find us falling further behind because the availability of information to the average person in the world is so immense. I find myself suddenly empowered with my iPad because I'm being able to get information, data, commentary, advice, all of it.
And videos.
And videos, right? as one thing. But if we don't have broadband available easily, I don't have good broadband at my home. If you don't have broadband available easily to the large population here, how will they absorb information? Sorry to belabor this point. It's a very important point. Self-learning and experiencing what's happening around the world is a very important element of how a civilization matures, of how a society and a country matures. We're falling further behind on that. We're not sort of here and the world is moving. We're actually falling further behind and the gap is very large at this point in time. And I worry about that. That's a solvable issue. Get broadband in place fast because it'll empower our people to go and figure out what kind of knowledge they need, what kind of expertise they can build.
Right. And if they want to fix the business processes, they surely must contact you.
Please.
Thank you so much for speaking with us.
My pleasure, Govind.
Thank you.
Thank you.